Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Not everything that wanders is lost. Some people simply prefer their own map. Modern psychology estimates that roughly 15% of men operate outside traditional social hierarchies, a shadow class that neither chases the spotlight nor hides from it. They're called sigmas, and their habits can feel like decoding a language with missing vowels. Women raised on the rules of constant texting, visible ambition, and predictable affection meet them, and suddenly feel as if the compass is spinning. Tonight we're pulling back the curtain on the odd magnetic rituals these men practice, the ones that make modern women pause mid-swipe and think, did he really just do that? On purpose? From disappearing acts that aren't games to compliments so precise they feel like secret surveillance, these moves are baffling, brilliant, and occasionally hilarious. Buckle in, because understanding a sigma is less like reading a manual and more like watching a cat obey traffic lights, technically possible, but unforgettable when it happens. Number 1. Friendship without maintenance. They have a way of treating friendship like a living thing that doesn't need daily feeding to survive. A Sigma man can go completely silent for months. No check-ins, no birthday reminders, no quick texts to keep the thread alive. To most people that looks careless, even rude, because modern friendship has been trained to run on constant notifications. But for him, the bond isn't measured in pings or posts. He trusts that if the connection was real in the first place, it will still be there when he comes back. What throws women off is how natural this is for him. He isn't punishing anyone, and he isn't secretly testing loyalty. He simply lives on a different rhythm, one that doesn't require proof of affection every week. When he finally reappears, he steps back into the conversation as though the last talk ended yesterday. Details you thought he'd forgotten, your sister's job change, the cafe you once said you liked, are recalled with eerie accuracy. That combination of long absence and sharp memory is unsettling. It feels like someone pressing pause on a movie and resuming hours later without missing a frame. There's also a quiet confidence underneath it. He believes relationships should be sturdy enough to handle space the way a well-built house stands through every season. To him, constant contact can sometimes weaken that structure, turning a friendship into a chore instead of a choice. Women used to steady streams of reassurance can find this baffling. They wonder if they meant less to him than they thought, only to realize later that his return is proof of respect, not neglect. This pattern creates a strange magnetism. The absence makes people notice the difference between need and value. When he shows up again, the conversation feels richer because it isn't forced, it's chosen. Many discover they've missed the way he listens, the way he drops insights like he's been collecting them the whole time. And in truth, he has. While gone, he's been reading, working, exploring, feeding his mind so he can bring something worthwhile back. It's friendship on his terms, but not selfish. It's a reminder that presence isn't about constant visibility. For a Sigma, it's about returning with something genuine to offer, even if the calendar insists too much time has passed. Number 2. Luxury in restraint. They approach owning things the way a master chef approaches seasoning. Only what's essential, nothing more, but every choice deliberate enough to make you stop and notice. A Sigma man isn't chasing designer labels or bragging rights. He's chasing a feeling of rightness. That might mean a single jacket so well cut it outlasts 5 fast fashion wardrobes, or a watch chosen not for its brand, but for the exact way it feels on his wrist. There's no clutter in his room, no half-used gadgets collecting dust, just objects that have earned their place. This restraint isn't about saving money. In fact, it often costs more. He'll spend months researching the perfect pair of boots, then wear them for a decade. The quiet message is clear. Quality over quantity, permanence over novelty. For women accustomed to a culture of constant upgrades, new phone every year, new outfit for every outing, it's oddly disorienting. They expect status to scream, he lets it whisper. What makes it even stranger is the confidence behind it. He doesn't need the quick thrill of unboxing or the approval that comes from flashing something new. He knows that abundance can dilute appreciation. By keeping only what truly matters, he sharpens his sense of value. Every object in his space carries a story or a function, nothing there just to fill a corner. Spend a little time around him and you start to feel the difference. The room feels calm, almost charged. There's no visual noise, no frantic energy of things bought and forgotten. It can make someone who thrives on variety feel exposed, like their own habits of endless consumption are being silently questioned. He isn't judging, he's just showing another way to live, and that quiet certainty can feel like a challenge. The luxury is in the restraint itself. It's the discipline of saying no to what's easy, so he can say yes to what's exceptional. It's the confidence to know that one perfectly chosen item carries more presence than a closet full of impulse buys. For him, minimalism isn't an aesthetic trend. It's a declaration that he owns his life, not the other way around. Number 3, emotionally ambidextrous. He can sit with someone in pain and tune in so completely it feels like he's absorbing every unspoken word. His attention is razor sharp, his voice steady, his questions precise. In that moment, he is all empathy, reading subtle cues most people miss. The micro tremor in a breath, the tiny flick of an eyelid that reveals a deeper worry. It's not performative. He genuinely locks onto the feeling, offers the exact phrase or silence that eases the weight. People walk away from that kind of presence, convinced they've just met someone who truly gets them. Then, almost without warning, the current switches off. The warmth drains, not in cruelty, but in deliberate self-regulation. He retreats into a calm, almost clinical neutrality, and the shift can feel like stepping from a heated room into a sudden chill. Women who expect a lingering glow from such intimate moments are left wondering if they imagined the earlier connection. Was he faking it? Did something change? This is where his difference shows. For him, empathy is a skill, not a faucet left running. He knows that constant emotional availability can blur boundaries and erode his own equilibrium, so he moves in with full presence when it's needed, then moves out with equal precision to protect his mental landscape. That ability to switch states isn't emotional coldness, it's emotional discipline. What unsettles people is the contrast. Most are either open or closed, warm or distant. He can be both, sometimes within the same conversation. It's like watching someone master 2 languages and slip between them mid-sentence. Women may interpret it as detachment, but he sees it as respect, giving empathy when it matters, withdrawing when it would only feed dependency or drama. Over time, those who know him well learn the rhythm. They recognize that when he goes quiet after an intense exchange, it isn't rejection, it's recovery. He's resetting so he can remain steady the next time someone truly needs him. That balance, full compassion paired with firm self-control, creates an aura of mastery that feels rare in a culture where people either overshare or shut down completely. It's not a performance. It's the quiet skill of holding space without losing himself. Number 4, reluctant compliments. When a Sigma man decides to give a compliment, it never lands where you expect. He won't say the easy lines, no broad, "you look amazing," no lazy, "great job." Instead, he zeroes in on a detail so precise it almost startles you. He'll notice how the stitching on your shoes echoes the color of the book you're carrying, or how the inflection in your laugh shifts when you're hiding real excitement. It's praise delivered like a laser beam, not a spray of confetti. This isn't because he's stingy with approval, it's because he refuses to hand out words that mean nothing. To him, a compliment is a kind of currency, and inflation ruins value. So he watches, quietly collecting small truths until something genuinely stands out. When he finally speaks, the remark carries weight precisely because it's rare. People remember it for days, replaying the sentence, wondering how he caught something so small that everyone else missed. The effect can be disarming. There's a subtle intimacy in being seen that clearly, almost like he's read a private page of your story. Women often feel a mix of pride and vulnerability, as if he's peeled back a layer without asking permission. It's flattering, yes, but also a little unsettling, because it proves he's been paying attention on a level most people never reach. What makes it more intriguing is his complete lack of follow-up. He doesn't linger for a reaction or fish for gratitude. After dropping the observation, he moves on as if nothing significant happened. That absence of agenda deepens the impact. You realize the compliment wasn't a tactic. it was simply truth. In a world saturated with casual flattery and performative praise, his approach feels almost radical. By refusing to waste words, he makes every syllable count. The scarcity turns a single sentence into an event, and the precision makes you wonder what else he's noticed, but chosen not to say. It's a quiet, almost unsettling form of respect, the kind that makes you feel both admired and exposed, long after the conversation ends. Number 5. Nomadic routine. A Sigma's relationship with routine is a paradox, steady on the inside, fluid on the outside. He can decide on a Tuesday night that it's time to pack a single bag and wake up in another city by Wednesday morning. There's no dramatic build-up, no restless chatter about needing a change, just quiet action. From the outside it looks reckless, even chaotic. To him, it's the most natural move in the world. What keeps it from being true chaos is the inner rhythm he carries everywhere. He might change addresses, time zones, even climates, but his core habits remain untouched. He'll still rise early to read, still block hours for his work, still carve out silent moments that keep his mind anchored. The setting changes, the cadence does not. It's as if his routine lives inside his bones rather than on a calendar. This unnerves women who equate stability with visible structure. They're used to people whose lives are tethered to specific places and predictable schedules, commutes, weekly meetups, the comfort of repetition. He breaks that expectation with almost serene confidence. One day, he's in a downtown loft. The next, he's renting a cabin hours away, and somehow nothing about his focus or mood slips. The coffee still brews at the same internal hour. The work still gets done. There's a quiet defiance in it. He's proving that discipline isn't about a fixed address or a carefully maintained planner. It's about owning his time so completely that location becomes a minor detail. That level of self-command feels like freedom and can stir both admiration and unease. Women who crave predictability may read it as a lack of commitment, wondering how someone can care deeply for people or plans while staying so mobile. Yet the consistency he offers is deeper than geography. His loyalty isn't to a place, but to the principles that guide him: focus, curiosity, solitude when needed, connection when chosen. Those don't shift when the skyline does. Being around him teaches an unexpected lesson. Real stability isn't the walls around you, it's the rhythm you carry inside. What looks like impulsive wandering is, for him, a life designed to stay steady no matter how far it travels. Number 6. Reverse signaling. When a Sigma man feels a spark, he doesn't rush in with a flood of attention. Instead, he often eases back, letting a small space open between you. To many women, that pause feels like retreat or sudden loss of interest, but it's something else entirely. He's not playing a game or trying to inflate his value. He's quietly testing the strength of the connection. In his mind, real chemistry should have its own gravity. If a bond only survives on constant texting, daily compliments, and relentless proximity, then it's built on need, not substance. By stepping back, he's watching to see whether the energy still flows without constant feeding. Can the conversation breathe on its own? Will you reach out because you want to, not because you're prompted? Those answers matter more to him than any quick declaration of feelings. This withdrawal is subtle, not dramatic. He doesn't slam doors or vanish without a trace. He simply slows the pace, fewer messages, a little more time alone, a quieter presence. The shift is deliberate and calm, almost like a scientist observing a reaction in a controlled experiment. It isn't about punishment, it's about clarity. For women used to a steady stream of reassurance, the change can be unnerving. They might wonder if they said something wrong or if he's losing interest. But when he circles back, his attention is unmistakably genuine. He shows up without fanfare, ready to pick up the conversation where it left off, proving that the pause was about depth, not distance. This approach reflects how he views relationships, as partnerships of choice, not dependence. He values autonomy, his own and yours. If the connection can endure a brief silence, it signals mutual respect and resilience. If it can't, better to know early. That quiet confidence, the willingness to risk someone walking away rather than force closeness, is what sets him apart. Reverse signaling is his way of saying, without words, if this is real, it will last through a little quiet. It's not a tactic to confuse, It's a filter for authenticity. And when you recognize it for what it is, the reunion after that pause feels less like a game and more like proof of something solid. Number 7. Untraceable digital life. A Sigma man treats the internet like a tool, not a stage. While most people document their lives in a steady stream of photos, status updates, and casual oversharing, he leaves barely a ripple. His social profiles, if he even keeps them, are stripped to essentials, maybe a single photo that hasn't changed in years, a bio so brief it feels like a code. Scroll all you like and you'll find no weekend recaps, no public declarations, no trail of half-thought opinions. It's as if he's online and invisible at the same time, yet he's far from uninformed. Mention a niche trend, a new underground artist, or the latest internet debate and he's already aware. He reads, listens, and absorbs quietly, moving through digital spaces like a shadow. He joins forums under names no one would guess, follows conversations without announcing himself, and catches the cultural pulse without leaving fingerprints. To people used to loud digital footprints, it feels like sorcery. Women who meet him often experience a strange double take. How can someone know so much about what's current while sharing almost nothing of his own life? They might try to Google him only to find fragments, a decade-old article, a username that might be his, a single tagged photo from a friend's wedding. The scarcity is both frustrating and magnetic. It suggests privacy as power, a quiet refusal to feed the world's appetite for personal details. This isn't paranoia or fear of technology, it's discipline. He understands that information is currency, and every casual post is a transaction. By staying minimal, he controls the narrative and keeps his real life insulated from the noise. He isn't hiding, he's choosing. The effect on relationships can be disorienting. Women who equate openness with constant sharing may wonder if he's withholding something. But spend time with him offline, and you realize he's not secretive. He's present. Conversations are richer because nothing is being live-streamed. Moments stay moments instead of content. In a culture that rewards exposure, his low-profile approach feels almost rebellious. He proves you can stay connected to the world's ideas while keeping your own story private. It's a quiet mastery of the digital age, fully informed, barely traceable, and completely in control of what anyone thinks they know. Number 8. Strategic plainness. A Sigma man can afford to look sharp. He usually has the taste and the means. But now and then, he makes a different choice. He blends in on purpose. Instead of the striking jacket or perfectly tailored shirt, he reaches for a plain tee, worn sneakers, maybe a color so neutral it almost fades into the wall. To the casual eye, it looks like he didn't bother. But the decision is deliberate. He's stripping away anything that might distract from what really interests him, how people behave when status symbols disappear. This isn't about neglect or lack of style. In fact, it takes confidence to downplay appearance when you know you could impress. By dressing in quiet tones, he creates a kind of social blank slate. Without visual cues, others reveal their own assumptions, who treats him with less respect, who stays warm and curious, who only notices when he's obviously on. It's an unspoken experiment, a way to see character without the filter of presentation. Women often find the effect unsettling. They're used to signals, fashion that telegraphs ambition, wealth, or creative flair. When those cues are missing, it's harder to categorize him. He doesn't fit neatly into high status or laid back. And that ambiguity draws attention precisely because it withholds the usual answers. What's more, the simplicity highlights his presence rather than his outfit. Without flashy clothes to talk over him, his words, expressions, and quiet confidence come into sharper focus. People catch themselves leaning in, realizing they're paying attention to the person instead of the packaging. Later, when they see him dressed with his usual precision, the contrast lands even harder. It proves the plainness wasn't default. It was a choice. That awareness can feel almost like a challenge, a reminder that he controls the narrative of how he's seen. Strategic plainness is his way of flipping the script. In a culture where style is currency and everyone is advertising themselves, he steps out of the market entirely, watching how the world reacts when there's nothing obvious to buy. It's a quiet test of authenticity. and the results tell him more about people than any expensive suit ever could. Number 9. Intellectual shape-shifting. Spend an evening with a Sigma man, and you might swear he has a dozen hidden degrees. One moment he's breaking down the mechanics of cryptocurrency, the next he's discussing the migration habits of monarch butterflies, or the nuances of Renaissance art. Press him on where he learned it, and he'll shrug. No classes, no formal training, sometimes not even a single book dedicated to the subject. He simply listens, absorbs, and rearranges information until it makes sense. This isn't party trick trivia, it's a deep, pattern-based way of thinking. While most people memorize facts, he watches for the structures beneath them, the way economic trends echo natural systems, or how a musical scale mirrors a mathematical sequence. Once he sees the pattern, he can talk about it with the ease of someone who spent years studying, because for him, understanding isn't about hours logged, it's about connections made. Women often find this both magnetic and bewildering. It feels like conversation with someone who's wired differently, a mind that can sprint while others jog. They might prepare for a simple dinner chat and end up in a debate about the psychology of urban design, realizing halfway through that he's never even read the textbook they once struggled to finish. The speed at which he picks up new ideas can feel almost unfair. What makes it more intriguing is his lack of showmanship. He isn't trying to dominate or impress, he's simply curious. If you introduce a topic he knows nothing about, he'll ask questions until a pattern emerges, then start contributing as though he's been there all along. It's less about encyclopedic memory and more about real-time synthesis, a quiet mental agility that's hard to fake. This shape-shifting intellect can unsettle people who equate expertise with credentials. In a world that values certificates and formal proof, his ability to just know blurs the line between amateur and authority. Yet he rarely claims the title of expert. He treats knowledge like an open field, not a hierarchy. And that humility makes his insight land even harder. For women used to surface-level small talk, the experience is unforgettable. One conversation feels like 3, and hours later they're still replaying how he connected seemingly random ideas into something that suddenly made perfect sense. It's not magic, just a mind trained to recognize the invisible threads running through everything, and to pull them together before anyone else even sees them. Number 10. Value-first relationships. A Sigma man approaches relationships like a craftsman selecting rare materials, careful, deliberate, and unconcerned with what dazzles on the surface. Looks might catch his attention for a moment, but they never seal the deal. What draws him in is a different kind of spark, a mind that challenges his own, a conversation that lingers long after the words are gone, a sense that someone's inner life has depth worth exploring. Because of that, the usual dating metrics barely register. Social status, curated photos, trendy wardrobes, or a resume of achievements don't carry the weight they do with many others. He's tuned to subtler signals, curiosity, self-awareness, the courage to think independently. When he notices those qualities, attraction builds from the inside out, often surprising the people around him. Someone the crowd overlooks can suddenly hold his full attention, while a person who thrives on surface appeal might never get a second glance. This recalibration can be disorienting for women who are used to external validation. They might expect charm to win him, or worry that they need to compete with flashier rivals, only to realize those things barely move the needle. He's listening for the rhythm beneath the noise, and he's patient enough to wait until he hears it. When he does commit, the connection feels different. Conversations run deep from the start. Philosophy over small talk, shared silences that feel as meaningful as words. He'd rather spend hours dissecting a half-formed idea than repeating a well-worn story. Physical attraction follows naturally, but it's anchored in that mental and spiritual resonance, which means it doesn't fade when novelty does. His approach can leave some people feeling strangely unmeasured, as though the usual yardsticks, beauty, popularity, wealth, never even entered the equation. That can be unsettling but also freeing. There's no performance to maintain, no need to constantly impress. He's drawn to authenticity, and once he senses it, superficial changes in appearance or status barely register. In a culture that often treats relationships like a marketplace, His value-first mindset stands out. He isn't buying into scarcity or playing to the crowd. He's seeking a partner who fits the architecture of his inner world, someone whose presence feeds growth rather than ego. And when he finds it, the bond he builds is resilient precisely because it was never about anything temporary to begin with. Number 11. Surgical honesty. When a Sigma man speaks the truth, it comes stripped of the soft padding most people add to keep feeling safe. If you ask his opinion, he gives you the real thing, precise, unvarnished, and often startling in its clarity. He won't tell you everything will be fine if he knows it might not. Instead, he breaks a problem apart like a mechanic disassembling an engine, laying out each piece so you can see what's really wrong. This isn't cruelty. It's respect. He believes honesty is an act of trust, and offering watered-down comfort feels dishonest. If a plan has holes, he points to every gap. If your reasoning falters, he calls it out, not to embarrass you, but to protect you from illusions that could cost more later. The delivery is calm, almost clinical, which can make the words hit even harder. Women who expect automatic reassurance can find this jarring. They might come looking for a quick, "You're right," or "Don't worry," only to be met with a careful analysis that exposes uncomfortable truths. At first it can feel cold, as if he's choosing logic over empathy. But stay in the conversation and you realize the empathy is there. It lives in the commitment to reality, not in empty comfort. He listens closely before speaking, gathering every detail so his response is grounded in fact. When he finally talks, it's hard to argue because he's already anticipated the counterpoints. The precision can feel surgical, cutting through excuses and wishful thinking. It demands that you meet him at the same level of honesty, which can be challenging but also liberating. What sets him apart is that he doesn't use this skill to dominate. He isn't interested in scoring points or winning arguments. Once the truth is laid out, he leaves space for you to decide what to do with it. There's no "I told you so," no lingering judgment, just the quiet conviction that facing reality is a form of care. In a world where polite half-truths often pass for kindness, his blunt clarity stands out. It can sting in the moment, but later it's the kind of honesty people remember with gratitude. He gives the gift of seeing things as they are, trusting that strength grows from truth, not from words meant only to soothe. Number 12. Data-driven intuition. A Sigma man's memory works like a finely tuned filter. He stores details that most people never even register. Tiny fragments of conversation, subtle quirks, fleeting moments that seem insignificant at the time. Months later, he might casually mention the crooked freckle on your wrist, or recall the exact flavor of tea you ordered on your first meeting. It feels almost forensic, as if he has a private archive of everything that actually matters to you, not just what society flags as important. Yet that same mind can completely bypass traditional milestones. Birthdays slip by without a text, anniversaries fade into the background, and he might forget the date of a dinner you planned weeks ago. To a partner raised on the rituals of celebration, it's maddening. How can someone remember the pattern of clouds the night you met, but overlook the day itself? The answer lies in how he values information. For him, memory isn't about social obligations, it's about resonance. He keeps what carries genuine emotional or intellectual weight, not what convention dictates. If an anniversary feels performative, it doesn't stick. But a throwaway comment about how you hated the smell of a certain perfume, that lodges deep because it's a piece of your real story. This selective recall can create a strange tension. On one hand, his attention to personal detail feels profoundly intimate. It proves he's been present in ways few people are. On the other, the absence of expected gestures can make partners question their importance. Is he careless, or is his love just calibrated differently? Spend enough time with him and the pattern becomes clearer. His memory serves connection, not ceremony. He'll surprise you with an old inside joke at exactly the right moment, or hand you a book you once mentioned in passing months ago. Those acts reveal a deeper investment than any calendar reminder could. It's not forgetfulness, it's prioritization. He's quietly telling you that what matters is the living texture of shared experience, not the dates stamped on a planner. To some, that's frustrating. To others, it's a revelation. proof that real attention is measured not in predictable rituals, but in the small, unrepeatable details only someone truly present could have noticed. The Sigma man moves through the world like a quiet anomaly, never shouting for attention, yet impossible to overlook once you've met him. From his minimalist lifestyle and nomadic rhythm to the way he delivers compliments with surgical precision or remembers the tiniest fragment of a story, every choice reflects a deeper self-mastery. He isn't rebelling for the sake of it. He's proving that independence and connection can coexist, that depth matters more than display, and that presence isn't measured in posts, anniversaries, or predictable routines. What confuses modern women, and often fascinates them, is that none of these behaviors are tactics. They're simply how he's wired, a man who values truth over comfort, authenticity over ceremony, and quality over noise. To know him is to realize that stability can live inside constant movement, that silence can speak louder than constant chatter, and that real intimacy thrives when neither person is performing for the crowd. So when you encounter someone who seems to live both inside and outside the grid, who disappears without drama and returns with sharper insight, understand that you're seeing the Sigma blueprint in action. It's not chaos, it's deliberate freedom, calm, precise, and undeniably magnetic. The Sigma man is a study in deliberate contrast, disciplined yet unpredictable, private yet intensely present. Every trait we've explored, from his quiet minimalism to his surgical honesty and that uncanny memory for details that actually matter, points to a life designed from the inside out. He doesn't chase attention or approval, yet his very refusal to perform is what makes people look twice and keep wondering. If these insights gave you a fresh way to see the Sigma mindset, let's keep the conversation going. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, share it with someone who will appreciate the perspective, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps this community grow and ensures more deep dive content like this reaches the people who crave it.